So it's my great honor to introduce our first board-narrated session on Big Data Max ROI. Stephen Wolf-Pereira, who is the CMO of Datalogix, and Stephen is a colleague, a friend, a smart, impressive leader, if not an impresario, if you've ever seen him moderate a panel or lead a discussion. He is CMO at Datalogix. He has a very impressive background, including MediaVest, working as a supporter and an account lead for Walmart. He also has a financial and investment banking background and is a consummate business person. And so it's my great pleasure to invite Stephen to the stage, and he's going to narrate the next paper session.
Marketing and technology are fully fused. So with that as a backdrop, truly understanding audience planning. Audience planning is going to be huge. You know, it's been all about programmatic buying for the past couple of years. Now let's shift it to not just, kind of audience buying, but audience planning. Always weird to see yourself on camera. Buenas tardes. Oh no, we need a lot more energy than that. Buenas tardes. Okay, you didn't know that you were going to have this whole session in Spanish, right? That wasn't on the program. Thank you, Gail, for that warm intro. And thank you, Keith and Stan, for reminding us that insights do need to lead to outcomes. And I love the slide that Stan had about data is the new gold. And when you combine that with addressability being everywhere, you have a really interesting opportunity because for the first time, audiences are truly divorced from media. So what does that mean? Well, you see this shift of media planning and media buying, where media buying has permanently morphed into audience buying or programmatic buying, and that's all being fueled by data and addressability. But the area that has still kind of not really shifted is from media planning to audience planning. And there are a lot of folks that are trying to figure out how best to do that. And I'm really excited to have the papers that are going to be discussed today. These are folks that are really focused not on big data for big data's sake. It's truly about big decisions. It's about understanding outcomes. And they're truly driving return on investment. So with that, let's have the first group, which is going to be AT&T, and then after them will be Facebook, and then Sequent Partners. They're going to share some of their insights and some of the initiatives that they've actually done to show ROI. But let's invite onto the stage Joe Empert, Principal of Advanced Analytics, and Charlie Hinton, Executive Director for Marketing Analytics at AT&T, and they're going to talk about quantifying the sales impact of digital, mobile, and social. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How are you? Good, good. Glad to hear it. So Joe is my partner in crime here. We're going to take you through a case study that we did for AT&T. We work at AT&T, and we're in the marketing analytics department. And we did this digital deep dive because we had lots of questions coming from our retail sales channel on what's all this mobile, social business. It seems nice and fluffy, but does it really drive traffic into my stores? And if you go back 10 years or so ago, the big question these same people were asking me was, can online advertising, just general digital banners and paid search, drive sales to my stores? And of course, now today we know that it does, and we've been able to quantify that. But the new question is, well, what about mobile and social? It seems like really fun to engage your audience and get them to like your story of the day or like your post and share that with their friends. But does that drive short-term sales or just long-term awareness? So that was our objective, to quantify the impact of digital media on sales. And when I say digital media, to double-click into the different types of formats of digital media. So social versus mobile versus online video, rich media versus banner, and then you have different flavors of search, branded and unbranded search. But most importantly, we wanted to break down the silos between our sales channels. We wanted to get the retail folks and the e-com channel folks talking instead of arguing over whose peanut butter was in whose chocolate when it came to media spend and budget allocation. And we also accounted for the effects of non-digital media and other influences. So let's take into account television. It's still a big driver of sales and of awareness. This wasn't just a look at digital in and of itself, but in the whole landscape of the media mix. And then we leveraged this study to act as a bridge to omni-channel attribution. But to do so, we had to move beyond our traditional market mix model. In our market mix model, we have digital online display as one variable. That included all the different types of formats, but it wasn't able to distinguish between relative effects of the different formats. It was just one variable, online display. So to that, we had to move beyond MMM because the data, the granularity itself, was not readily available in the market mix model, the traditional market mix model. And we had new characterizations or categorizations required to understand how to get the data into different levels of variables. And then from a modeling perspective, the data itself is very dynamic and noisy, and often it's very difficult to get a read on those types of variables. So we developed a two-stage model approach, and I'm going to hand it over to Joe to take you through exactly what he did.
Thanks, Charlie. All right, so we did use a two-stage modeling approach to do this. And at first glance, when you look at the stage one of this, it looks a lot like a traditional market mix model that we typically use at AT&T. So by that, it's basically a series, at its core, a series of regression equations. And so what we're doing here is we're trying to figure out the impacts of various types of advertising on both online sales and offline sales. So sales, of course, can be driven by digital media as well as traditional media. But it also can be impacted by other things, such as environmental factors, things like long-term consumer perceptions, things like seasonality. Those types of things. Also included in this would be things like economic factors. Those types of things we actually bundle together and include in what we're calling base or base plus here. So this gives us a good picture of the overall marketing environment. But now back to the moral of our story here. So the purpose of this is to focus on digital advertising, right? So what's really the focus then of stage one? The focus of stage one is to get the best read possible on our paid search and online display variables. Convert that to sales contributions, and then take that information, transfer it then to stage two. Now in stage two, we continue going down the path of looking at different sales channels. But we take things one step further. So in this case, you remember the online display contribution I said that's coming from stage one? We now take that and make that our target. We use the variables that we have at a much more granular level to represent the specific types of digital or online display. And we build models to determine the impacts of those specific formats. And then with paid search, we do the same thing. So with paid search, take the contributions from stage one, and in this case, we build models to determine the overall impacts of branded versus unbranded search. So keep in mind here, one thing is that we use the same level of statistical rigor that we use for our core market mix models. And we've had very good luck with those over the years. And so when we layer on the cost information that we have, essentially what we're able to do is get very good, high-quality insights to determine the impacts of digital at very specific format levels. So with that, I'll pass it back to Charlie, and we can talk about those insights.
Great, thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
So 5 key insights came out of what we're calling this analysis, which is our digital deep dive. So we have our main model, our main market mix model up here. And we drilled down specifically in this analysis on digital. The first insight here is branded search is especially cost effective. And when you compare that to non-branded or unbranded search terms, it does a really good job of driving sales down at the bottom of the funnel. And number 2, mobile advertising is a top performer. In fact, mobile and social are the 2 best performing digital format for both online and offline sales. If you just like total sales across AT&T, regardless of the channel, mobile and social is doing a really good job on a cost-effective basis of driving sales into the business. Online video performance, however, can vary considerably. And you need to understand, or when we get from planning into execution of online video, is to watch the cost per thousand very closely, because the cost per thousand dictates the cost effectiveness of the media, and depending on your media mix of that channel, you can have a really good performing year or a pretty bad performing year. So we really look to monitor the CPMs here in this particular format. I've already mentioned social. Social is mobile, and sometimes mobile is social, so those two do work hand in hand, and they're the top performing digital media for AT&T. And lo and behold, there are significant synergies between sales channels. So those folks that work in e-com and those folks that work in retail channel sales can actually work together to optimize their media mix across total AT&T. And the reason I say that is because e-com tends to be focused on the very bottom of the funnel, that point of sale online, while retail is that top of the funnel. But now today they can work together. And so 3 strategic changes that we made: we fine-tuned our media mix. Not only were we spending more in digital, but now we're able to optimize across digital formats. And we increased the dialogue between retail and e-commerce divisions. And we defined what next generation attribution looks like. This particular digital deep dive provides for us a view of what the top-down and the bottom-up, the market mix model and a deep dive model, look like for a complete solution. And that's our next step, the omni-channel attribution model. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.